So in the year 2000, I found myself in Sarajevo in Bosnia, and I was invited to play for UN peacekeeping troops that were there in the immediate aftermath of the horrific war that happened there. And you couldn't really call it peace. It was a cessation of overt violence, but the tension that was hanging in the air was horrific, and the destruction that was everywhere in the people's bodies, in their eyes, and in the buildings and in the streets. It was really horrific. And I don't know if you've had this experience, but in my experience, when you're in a place that has a whole lot of darkness in it, if you encounter a ray of light, it's so incredibly brilliant. And that's what happened for me there. I met some amazing people who were extremely courageous and extremely loving. I got to play at an orphanage in Sarajevo while I was there, and the orphans, of course, had nowhere to go in the bombing and the shelling of Sarajevo that went on for years. And so they stayed right in the middle of the city. And the people who cared for them weren't going to leave them by themselves, so they stayed too. And that kind of courage, that kind of day-to-day showing up in the midst of such horrific danger and aggression deeply inspires me to stand with your very body for the love that we talk about a lot. That moves me. I was really honored to be there. I also got to go and visit a choir practice, which doesn't sound like an incredibly dramatic thing to do. And in fact, it wasn't dramatic, but it was extremely important. This particular choir is called the Pontanima Choir. And what they were doing was meeting in a church basement, practicing hymns as in the way of many other choirs I've visited. There were a couple of differences. One was that everybody was smoking, which normally doesn't happen in the Presbyterian churches that I've grown up in. But the other thing was that about half of the people there were Christian and about half of the people there were Muslim. And what they were doing was singing together each other's sacred music. And what they were doing on a deeper level was rehumanizing each other in the immediate aftermath of a war largely fought between Christians and Muslims. And war is one of the 2 or 3 most dehumanizing things we've come up with in the history of the world. How do we allow ourselves to kill each other? By believing that the other is less than human and not worthy of living, which requires not knowing them very well. So here they were singing together each other's sacred music. That moved me deeply, and it took me years to write about my visit to Sarajevo. It was too raw. But years later, another sad thing happened in my life that opened up that grief that I felt in being there, seeing the tremendous damage that had been done. And I believe that all grief touches all grief. So these two sad moments kind of got woven together in this song with a dash of hope that I think is not, that is thick hope, not thin hope. There is a kind of hope that is naive, that has to do with pretending things aren't as dire as they are, or looking away from things that are hard to look at. But there's another kind of hope, which has to do with believing in our capacity to be better, which is also true. So the song is called Just One Candle. I wrote the verses, and to give credit where it's due, the chorus was written by another writer, a guy named Francis of Assisi. He was great to work with.
Closest I've flown to the face of a war was into Sarajevo on a wing and a prayer. And the bombs didn't fly from the hills anymore, but the people were haunted. There was fear in the air, and the city was cratered from the shells and the rounds, like rain on a puddle, like the face of the moon. And and they buried the bodies till they filled up the ground. In the grass on the highway, they just ran out of room. But the people have gathered in the middle of town with the songs they hold sacred of a time coming soon. From their different traditions, they are singing the sound of their future together, and they're singing in tune. And all the darkness in the world can't extinguish the light of just one candle. All the darkness in the world can't extinguish the light of just one candle. I got word overseas that an old friend had died. She was bright-eyed and laughing and gone far too young. My spirit and body felt hollow inside. I wanted to cry out, but no sound would come. So I walked through the night in a dangerous town, where the gunfire can sound like the 4th of July. But by chance I looked up, and the stars shining down tore the wind from my lungs and the rain from my eyes. Because just like my friend, those stars are long gone, and that light has been shining for thousands of years. So the light that we shine seems to go on and on, like those rays across the cosmos to refract through my tears. And all the darkness in the world can't extinguish the light of just one candle. And you can say love is a powerless tool, that the real world is heartless, and that hope is for fools. But I watch for the sunrise, and the truth is I have found it's not light that is fragile, it's the other way round. Oh, the darkness in the world can't extinguish the light of just one candle. Oh, the darkness in the world can't extinguish the light of just one candle. Believe me that all the darkness in the world can't extinguish the light of just one